Hi everyone, it is Meredith, your evolutionary astrologer, and today we're going to talk all about oppositions. And oppositions are so powerful and they're so profound, and they open up the doorway to the contradictory parts of yourself. And I want you to understand your oppositions. We all have them. You've got 6 of them in your chart, but do you have planets that are actually in opposition of one another? And that's a little bit different than just the houses that of course are in opposition of one another and the signs that are in opposition of one another. So you can listen to this video in 3 different ways. You can listen to all 6 pairs of oppositions and then go and find where those pairs are in your chart and listen by house. You can also listen to this video if you've got planets in opposition to one another. And I am going to give you some really magical tricks to find out if your opposition is intense and if it is harder to work with or if it's easier to work with. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go through all 6 oppositions, and I'm going to tell you the themes that are challenging you. Oppositions are challenging you because they are asking of you to be in 2 different places at the same exact time, and it's just not possible. So how do we work with oppositions? You need to know. And in this video, of course, because it's me, we're going to go a little bit deeper. Now, you guys have to forgive me for 2 things. First of all, I don't know if this video is going to be edited because my editor is pregnant and she's about to have a baby. So this just might be raw and filled with blips and bleeps and all the bloopers. And the second is I have Bo, my new puppy, sitting right here. So when he wakes up, I'll introduce you. And he might cry through this video. So we'll see. This is only day 2 of us having Bo with us. So let's talk about oppositions. I want you to get your gorgeous natal chart. Hopefully you have the one from my shop. And I want you to look at the opposing signs. So we know that there's Aries and Libra, Taurus and Scorpio, Gemini and Sagittarius, Cancer and Capricorn, Leo and Aquarius, and then Virgo and Pisces. So find those placements in your chart, okay? And they are exactly 180 degrees apart. The houses are exactly apart. Now, I am going to talk about mostly planets in opposition to one another. And I'm not going to be able to go through the planetary combinations, but I'm going to give you some tips and some tricks on how to know which planet is dominating. So planets that are in opposite to one another stand exactly 180 degrees apart, and they kind of cut the wheel in half, if you will. And I'd like you guys to take a 10-degree orb in either direction. So in order to figure out your opposition, you could have a 0-degree Taurus, let's just say, and you could have a 10-degree Scorpio, and that would be an opposition, okay? You could have a 15-degree Gemini planet, and you could have a 25-degree Sagittarius planet, and that's an opposition. Now, to be clear, an orb is an allowance of a particular amount of degrees on either side to an exact aspect. So an exact aspect would be a 0-degree Virgo planet with a 0 degrees Pisces planet. That would have no orb. That would be exact. So planets can be between 170 and 190 degrees away from one another and still create an opposition. Now, oppositions sound like adversaries, and they kind of are, but the urge to make friends between these polar opposite parts of you leads to you stretching your soul and you going way beyond the limits that are either imposed upon you or the limits that you impose upon yourself. So I want you to think about these oppositions as polarities, but without oppositions, we can't even really exist very well in the world at all. So think about just a couple easy oppositions, male, female, on, off, yin, yang, dark, light, in, out, introversion, extroversion, old, young, friends, enemies, right? Those are all oppositions. And it's inside of those polarities in the world that we grow our souls, right? Okay, so I want you to think about the oppositions and the oppositions in your chart. Now, if you look at your chart and you don't have any planets that are in opposition, keep listening to this video because somebody is your opposition. So if you are a Leo, every Aquarius out there is giving you an opposition. If you are a Scorpio, every single Taurus out there in the world that you're going to meet is your opposite. And so this applies to synastry. This applies to your natal chart within your own natal chart. And this also applies by transit. This also applies by house, by sign, and now I'm speaking about planets. Oh my God, is your mind blown? There is so much to astrology. You guys stick with me and I will share with you all of my tips and tricks because I want you to learn truthful, real, raw astrology. So it is so important in life to know exactly who you are and exactly who you're not. And oppositions in the chart can show you the pieces of you that you have not yet developed. I also want to tell you, this video, I hope, grows compassion for yourself in the pieces of you that are just polar opposite. No, you're not crazy. No, you're not whacked out. You just probably have oppositions, two opposing things that kind of want the same thing, that go at it differently, and each side needs what the other has. Yeah, it sounds like our world, right? Like if we could just embrace our oppositions out there in the world, oh, what a better world this place would be. Okay, so there's a very important thing that I want you to know about oppositions, and that is let's say you have an opposition of two planets. Now, I know you could have an opposition of 4 and 1, but one of these planets, okay, in the opposition is going to be underdeveloped, rejected, and neglected by you. Why? Because you just don't want to deal with it. So I want you to try to get aware of which planet is awkward in the opposition or rejected, or which planet do you disassociate with. That is so important. So, and I'm going to tell you that planet is dominating you. So this planet will create a struggle for you, and you will find that you project yourself, your issue, your challenge, your problems onto this planet, and this planet will show up as another person, another situation, a chronic illness, a habit, something that commands and demands that you deal with it and that you integrate it into the rest of you. It doesn't want to be avoided. It doesn't want to be rejected, and it doesn't want to be neglected, and it won't be. So that's why this video is so important. If you don't understand your oppositions, you truly cannot understand the complexity in you. And I understand a lot of people out there, especially on the internet, they want to give you astrology in a box or sun sign astrology, but astrology is deeply complex. And when you understand the opposing views inside of your own soul, you can understand your 10-layer cake. So let's talk about the heavier, harder planet creating the struggle for you. Now, this might not be you creating the struggle for yourself. This might be a reflection of the people in life and in the world that you've been having to deal with. And you're like, well, they're trying to teach you the opposite thing. So your abuser, the person who hurt you and hit you, is actually trying to teach you, if you have Mars opposing Venus or Mars opposing Sun, is actually trying to teach you love. How are they doing that? How are they doing that? By teaching you what love is not. Okay, so if you have an opposition around Mercury, well, you're probably involved with a lot of liars, or you could be a liar yourself. You could be lying to yourself. The truth could be too hard to deal with. You could deny the truth away, or you could just be with people out there in the world that just simply don't tell you the gosh darn truth. And now, how are they teaching you about truth? Because they're lying to you. You cannot even value the truth if you have not been wounded by the lie. That's how oppositions work. They work paradoxically, and they are so, so important. So I have found that the outer planets, okay, and not all of them because I don't include Jupiter, but Mars, Saturn, Uranus, Pluto, and oftentimes Neptune, but not always, but oftentimes Neptune, usually bring the more difficult challenges when they are in opposition, and they become troublesome and problematic, and they reflect the issue or the challenge back to us through another crisis or a person that brings us a crisis. Now, we don't usually disassociate with our Venus or our Jupiter, and sometimes our Neptune. Neptune goes both ways. Neptune is the margarita that tastes so good, so you have another and another and another and another, and 10 margaritas is not so good for you. One was great, 10 is not. So what is your Neptune doing with you, right? What do you do with your Neptune? So I don't know if your Neptune's good or bad. Mine, thank God, is mostly good, but sometimes it sabotages me, and it's tricky. It is the trickster. It's very, very magical. My house is set up for my new puppy, and so that's why it looks like this. Anyways, hold on. You're gonna see all my puppy stuff. So the outer malefic planets usually are the parts of ourselves that we disown. So again, Pluto, Uranus, sometimes Neptune, Saturn, and Mars. And we're out of touch with them. And we don't want to be in touch with them because they bring pain, they bring challenge, they're hard to deal with. And so Venus, the moon, and Jupiter, and the neutral planets, Sun and Mercury, usually get bossed and owned by those malefics. I want you to go back, rewind, and go listen to what I just said. What are the malefics? Those planets that I mentioned before usually are the ones that we disassociate with and in the opposition, and we usually do the work of Venus, Jupiter, the moon, sometimes Neptune, and the neutral, those are the benefics, and then the neutral planets, the Sun and Mercury. And we disassociate with the malefic planets, and they usually create crisis in our life. So think about your soul needing to integrate these opposing planets together. And I want you to think about these two planets or these two groups of planets wanting something from you at the exact same time. I liked Sue Tompkins, who gave the analogy, somebody's knocking on your back door and somebody's ringing the bell at your front door. Which door are you going to answer? The front door or the back door? So this is you being pulled in two different directions and you feel torn. I have given the analogy, my personal analogy is you can't drive your car and ride your bike at the same exact time. So you're going to choose the bike or are you going to choose the car? You know, is it a sunny, glorious day in Seattle and you want to ride your bike and get some exercise? Or do you want to drive your car? So one of these options you're going to not do. And you're going to choose not to do it over and over and over and over and over again. And you're going to either leave the bike behind or leave the car behind. And in so doing so, you reject one of those planets. So what you really need to do is learn how to drive your car while riding your bike. Yeah, I know it sounds impossible, right? And it is hard. Oppositions are hard, but and it will create and present problems in your life until you learn how to integrate the paradox in your life. I guarantee you the oppositions in your life are bringing you a paradox, like Leo Aquarius. I want to be madly, passionately in love. I want to have the hottest, most beautiful mate in the world. Oh my God, love makes me sick. If you bring me flowers on a first date, I think you're gross and pathetic. And I don't want a relationship at all because I need to do my freedom. That's the paradox. So how do I find somebody, right, who won't gross me out if I have a big Aquarius, Leo opposition, won't gross me out for the rest of my life, who will give me the freedom and understand that my soul needs freedom without taking offense and getting their feelings hurt. And then I have emotional management triage to do, right? So how do I integrate the two competitive pieces? I want to be single and I want my freedom and I want to be married in a passionate relationship with a lot of sex in it. And then I don't want to be bossed and owned by your sexual desires, right? It's the maddening paradox. And that is your opposition. So I really want you to understand your oppositions on the angles as well. It's critical, critical, critical. This video is so important for you to understand so you can understand the complexity inside of you and the two parts of yourself that fight with yourself. And your very first most important opposition is your ascendant to your descendant, because those are your personal needs, ascendant, and then those are your relationship needs, the descendant, right? Yeah. So we're going to look at the problems the oppositions create for you. So I want to tell you, if you've got planets in an opposition, one of the planets is the victim of the dominating, troublesome planet that you've probably disassociated with and that you've probably rejected. So you are a victim to your own self. So you might be a person who really wanted this relationship so badly, but you have this big Uranus or you have this big Aquarius in your chart, and you can't attract it to yourself. So why are you sabotaging, right? Because you're disassociating with the Leo part. Okay, let's keep going. Isn't this exciting? Isn't this exciting? Do you love learning this complex astrology? I hope so. I hope so. I hope so. Okay, I have so much to talk about, and I don't know if this video is actually even going to get edited. So I've got to talk fast. I've got to talk really fast because I want you to stick with me. So I love what Sue Tompkins writes about in her work, where she talks about you will get the opportunity to integrate or to get your oppositions right. And we need to merge these two sides, this domineering planet that is going to sort of crush the other set of planets. And we're going to get the opportunity to do our oppositions over and over and over again. And because we're going to project them onto other people. And we're going to say, oh, it's God's fault. Oh, it's the universe's fault. You know what? God forgot about me and didn't bring me anybody appropriate to love. Oh, it's God's fault. I never got a good opportunity. Oh, it's my parents' fault. Oh, my dad, he abused me, so I can't attract anybody. So we are going to be the victim in our own story of oppositions. And oppositions are actually here to create a wholeness inside of us and to create our evolved self and our consciousness. And so they're here to grow all sides of ourselves. So if you have a chart riddled with planets in opposition, you have a lot of big lessons to work on in this lifetime. So oppositions are also where you can be fanatical and extreme, parts of yourself that are so opposed that they go to the extreme fringes, right? Like I'm super independent and then I'm super romantically desiring a soulmate. And opposite signs always have a little bit of compatibility. So they, let me say it this way. Air signs are always opposite to fire signs, and earth signs are always opposite to water signs. So the huge message in the story is they need each other. They actually need each other. Because, we need water for earth to grow things, and air makes fire expand. So I want you to think about blending these two extreme sides of yourself. So let's do Aries and Libra real quick. And we're going to do all the combinations, so stick with me. But instead of being this aggressive dominant, right, or this like compromising doormat, how could you integrate those two energies and instead become a powerhouse of diplomacy, or like perfect assertion, like assert your will, not aggressively dominate with your will. And so you can produce really incredible results. You have opportunities to create huge understanding around differences inside of your own self and inside of other people. And Wherever you have these oppositions, I'm telling you, this is where you need deep integration in your life and in your own self. And I don't want you to let your malefic planets dominate and hold parts of you hostage. So the first thing I want to ask you is, do you feel held hostage in your own life or in your own circumstances? Do you feel that? Do you feel parts of yourself not being expressed? Or are you constantly expressing yourself in hypocrisy? Like, yes, I want to be an extrovert and I'm an introvert, or yes, I want self-confidence and I'm a super confident person, and then no, I don't want to take any risks and I'm too shy to try, So what themes, just tell me the themes in your life that are opposing one another. Also, I do want to tell you, after your Saturn return, your oppositions will get better. I have huge oppositions in my chart, huge, just absolutely ugly, terrible, and malefics opposing malefics. So one day Pluto wins, the other day Saturn wins. I mean, it's like not even a victory until it became a victory, until I used my wounds to create deep transformation and radical transformation, because Uranus is in the story. And and I found value. I found deep, deep value in the ability to transform limitations in other people and in self. And so that's Saturn opposing Pluto Uranus. And if you were born in the mid 60s, you have that too. If you're going through a Saturn return right now, second Saturn return, and you're in your 50s, you have that same opposition. I don't want you to let other people become the negative planets in your chart, because they're much harder to work with. It's much easier for me to work with my own wounds than to have some monster show up in my life and now I got to deal with him, right? That was Pluto. Boom! Taking him out. I actually operated much of my life without a mean bone in my body, and then I realized, wow, I have to learn how to get mean. Yeah. And I never really was like a mean person, but I had moments where I had to find the Pluto Saturn power in me because I was so dominated, right? And those of you who know me and know me well, you probably can see that a little bit. But I am strong now, but thank God, because I'm 56 years old, right? So if you are undeveloped or underdeveloped, or if you don't mind me saying this, if you just don't have a lot of life experience or you're young, your oppositions are probably still really dominating you. And what my gift is for you is to teach you the deepest astrology that there is, that I'm possibly capable of, so you can use it as a tool to find yourself, to help yourself, to heal yourself, like I did for my own self. And I found it a little bit late in life. I was about 28 years old. So I've been doing it a long time, but I wished I would have found it at 15. Sometimes on my live chats, people are like, well, I'm a 15-year-old listening. And I'm like, oh my God, God bless you. There's parts of us that don't trust the opposition in us. Like I didn't trust my power. I didn't trust my own authority when I was a little girl. I let other people's authority over me dictate what I was going to do. So where you have your opposition is where you don't have a lot of trust until you develop it, until you grow it. But where you have an opposition is where you have an opportunity to glean incredible wisdom, awareness, compassion, empathy for yourself and for others. And I want to give you a trick right now. I want to give you a tip and a trick, okay? So I want to teach you really fast how to find out what the most important aspect in your chart is, but I want to apply this to oppositions. So you can do this little trick with any aspect in your chart: a trine, a sextile, a conjunction, opposition, a square, whatever. And I'm going to do more videos, and I want you guys to tell me if you like this aspect series that I'm starting, because I want to talk about squares, I want to talk about conjunctions, I want to talk about them all. I have so much to do with you guys. Oh my God. So I want to do the other aspects, but we're just starting out with the opposition. But okay, the very first thing is, and you can look at the other aspects if you're advanced, but if not, just stick with me around the opposition for this video. The very first thing I want you to look at or to consider to see if this is a hot, powerful dynamite, stick of dynamite opposition in your chart is it on the angle? So is it on the first, the fourth, the seventh, or the 10th house cusp? So that means is one of your planets within 10 degrees of the first house, that's your ascendant, the fourth house, 10 degrees either way, okay? Not 11 and not 12, only 10. And 10 is really weak, but it still counts. Or the seventh or the 10th house cusp. So it could be 10 degrees in the ninth, that's still on the midhaven. It could be 10 degrees in the sixth or seventh, that's still on the midhaven. It could be 10 degrees in the third or the fourth, 10 degrees away from the house cusp between the third and the fourth. That is still on the angle. That's on the IC, and the same with the ascendant. So if you don't know what a cusp is, you don't understand houses, please go search for those videos on my channel. I do a whole video on cusps. You need to know that. So if you've got an aspect close to the angle, that is a stick of frickin' dynamite. So if it's 1 degree away, it's bullseye. If it's 2 degrees, it's powerful. 3 degrees, it's intense. 4 degrees, it's still, oh my God. 5 degrees, it's still powerful. 6 degrees, okay. And 10 degrees, it's on the dartboard. So it's a big freaking deal. Yeah, it's a big deal. Now, you can also do this with all the other aspects, as I said. So if you have a conjunction down at the IC, that IC is absolutely critical to you. If you have a conjunction or a trine, from the midhaven to, yeah, something else, well, that midhaven is lighting up. So those angles are your major arteries. And if you've got a planet sitting on one of those major angles, that planet is going, ooh, I am extra energy. I'm on steroids. I am a bolt of lightning. That's what that is, okay? And it works with any aspects, but in this video, oppositions. Okay, so my second power tip and trick for any aspect, but today oppositions is it exact? And so exact means that the planets that, now your houses are going to be exact. Your houses are going to be exactly opposite. But if your moon is exactly opposite to your Mars, and I'm talking exact, so it's 2 degrees Libra, and then it's 2 degrees Aries. That's an exact opposition. That is on freaking steroids, and that is like, pay attention to me. And by the way, that's really odd and very abnormal to happen. So it's extraordinarily persuasive in the chart. And then if it happens to be also on an angle, that's like, holy moly, guacamole, right? Yeah, it's a really big, a BFD. If you've got that, if you've got an exact opposition, leave me a comment below. I want to know what it is. And then also, if you have an exact opposition and it's on an angle, so the first and the seventh or the fourth and the 10th, oh my God. I mean, the world is not messing. They're not messing. They're not messing with you. Those lessons are going to come in hard, strong, and big. And I'm telling you, you're on the advanced course for consciousness. Now, the rest of us, let's don't feel bad because we probably got a really hard lifetime coming up, or we just had a really, really hard lifetime. You can also have a hard lifetime with squares and other aspects. And you know what? We all get something. There is no perfect chart. There is no one chart's better than the other. It's how well do you work with your chart, right? My chart is not better than your chart. By the way, if you saw my chart, you wouldn't even want my chart. But because I know astrology, I might work well, or I might work even a little bit more insightfully with my chart than you do with your chart, but your chart could look easier, right? So I think astrology lends you a tool to step into maximum ability. That's just my belief system. And it helps you work on yourself every single day. Every single time you look at your chart, you will see something new. So those exact aspects are huge. Okay, there's another trick. And this is my next tip. And that is if you have one of your planets in high potency. So there, it's a super potent opposition if just one, not both, just one, is exalted and basically in its own sign. So if you have Gemini and Mercury opposing Moon in Leo, it could be Moon in Cancer, and then that's like holy bleep, 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 bleep. Like, what the hell is going on? So, if you have your opposition in exalted, signs for planets, let me know. I really want to know because that's crazy. That's on steroids. You're not getting away from that one. You're having to do that work. So, that'd be like if Sagittarius was in Jupiter opposing Mercury in Gemini. Okay. And I think I've got one more. Um, okay, so this is for my advanced students. Do I want to give it? Do I want to give it? Okay. If you're not an advanced student and you're already feeling like you're super confused and I'm like really sounding crazy to you, just skip this. And I don't want you to sweat. I don't want you to have anxiety, but I want to give this to my advanced listeners, my advanced students, and I'm not going to even explain what it is. So you either got to know it or you don't know it. But this is for my advanced students. And by the way, if you love these videos, come and be a member because this is the kind of stuff that I teach in my members only videos. And I give you more of my techniques and tricks like this, but I'm not going to explain this. But this is if your opposition is in mutual reception. Oh my God. Even if it's not on an angle, but if it's in mutual reception, um, yeah, so you have Jupiter in Leo, um, with well, let's see. Hold on, hold on. Let me think about this. If you have like Pisces in Virgo with Mercury in Pisces. Wait. Okay, I told you bloopers and all. So Mercury in Pisces with Jupiter in Virgo, that's a mutual reception. Okay, now I'm not going to go into all that, but I will do mutual receptions and how to figure out what your mutual receptions are. I did that at my workshop here in Seattle, and it was really, really fun for you guys to see all your mutual receptions. So and by the way, you can join my channel for just $2.99. It puts like less than 10 cents a day in my pocket. It puts like 5 cents a day in my pocket and it helps me do these videos. So members, you get benefits. Go check it out. Just click on the join button. Okay, so let's look at the different oppositions that exist in the chart. Let's start with the Aries Libra opposition. Okay, now this is a cardinal opposition. Aries and Libra are masculine yang signs, and we know that this is a fire and air. So this is somebody who desires doing it their own way and attending to their own agenda. And at the same time, they also want to be in deep partnership. And it can be how this can come up as a problem in your life is that you might have to be in a partnership that stifles your own independence, or you might be independent, but you're craving partnership. So somehow, just think of the theme songs. Somehow you are in a partnership, independence, crisis. You want those two things. The independence is the car and the relationship is the bicycle. Which one are you going to pick? So which one has the malefic planet that dominates this theme? The independence or the relationship? And both can be bad. Both can be hard. Both can bring the challenge. The relationship can be the challenge and the independence can be the challenge. So how do you meet your own goals, build your life autonomously, and also do partnership at the exact same time? That is the question. That's the $1,000,000 question. Also, I want you to think of the planetary rulers of of these signs. So Aries is ruled by Mars and Libra is ruled by Venus. So we have a male-female problem. That could be a gender problem, like who am I? What am I? It could be I'm a Venus person and I don't like Mars people. Or it could be that Mars people dominate my Venus. Or it could be I'm a Venus person, I don't like Mars people. Um, I don't like the male gender, I like the female gender. So I deny the Mars, right? So I want you to think about how do your planets, if you have this by planet, how does this problem show up? How does this Venus Mars problem show up? And you can see the opposites. Maybe you're a woman in the military or a male dominated um, business or career, and you're not accepted or you're put down, or maybe, I don't know, sadly you were the victim of Harvey Weinstein issue, right, where you had to use your sexuality to advance. Mars Venus, so there is a giant, also Mars is sex and Venus is love. So are you experiencing just a sexual relationship without love? Or are you experiencing a love relationship without sex? And do you have a Mars Venus opposition? Isn't this fascinating? Are you guys listening? It's so interesting. I guarantee you people are going to learn lessons around Venus and Mars and around what you want and what society wants from you, and aggression and compromise, right? And individuation versus cooperation, and decision making and my way and indecision, and freedom versus relationships. So tell me if you guys can relate. Mars is a fighter and it will fight for the things that it really wants. And Libra is a compromiser and it wants justice and it really values justice and fairness. And so this person who is evolved knows how to cooperate with people without compromising themselves or their desires. And they understand the difference between being dynamically assertive without being dominant and aggressive over their partners. And if this is a big theme for you, you're going to learn how to keep your own autonomy and your own opinions without alienating other people. If you have a big uh, Aries Libra access, you probably have alienated people with your opinions, and you're here to learn finesse and diplomacy and going with the flow, and without just placating people and faking it, because Aries cannot give up their identity. So if Aries has the planet that you have had a hard relationship with and you've disassociated with it, that's the problem for you. So that might be projected out there in the world, and people might try to dominate you, or you might be dominating. You might not even be aware of it. Okay, let's go to our second combination. Okay, this is the Taurus Scorpio axis, and they are fixed, right? They're fixed and they're feminine, they're yin. So we're talking about Taurus, which is the builder, versus Scorpio, which is the destructor. And I know that sounds negative and nasty, but you have to sometimes destroy things in order to make them pliable or usable, right? Think of things that you have to crush. Think of crushed tomatoes in the fabulous marinara sauce, right? Can't have a whole tomato, you got to destroy that thing. So Taurus is the builder, it likes to grow things, and Scorpio likes the demolition. And this is the calm and serenity versus emotional chaos or emotional crisis or emotional passion. So this is security versus like the seductive temptations in life. And Taurus really values the placid, the predictable, the serenity in life, the routine. And Scorpio really prefers dealing with crisis. I know a lot of Scorpios are going to deny that, but it is true. They are like the crisis handlers of the zodiac. They're like 911. And Taurus is physical sex versus Scorpio, which is like raw intimacy, right? So Taurus is literally the physical act of sex, where Scorpio is the psychological bond and merging through the sexual act. I know it's a little crazy. But okay, so these signs are concerned with money and power and sex and attachment and ownership and building security and money. This is also the money access. So there's physical and psychological. Taurus is physical, Scorpio is psychological. So Scorpio's lure is on the psychic level. And this is an emotionally charged water sign where Taurus's lure is the physical concrete, right? Like the flesh, the bones, and the cold, hard cash, and the cheese sauce. Taurus stirring in a pot, right? And Scorpio eats the Taurus's cheese sauce and like feels nirvana, right? Feels ecstasy. Yeah. So they rule the second and the eighth house. So if you've got, wherever you have Taurus, Scorpio by house, this is the theme, this is the axis. But if you have planets here, well, it's a pretty big deal and it's fixed. So this one gets really rigid. I mean, and they are territorial and they have jealousy issues and possession issues. But this is also about making your own way through life and self-sufficiency and personal possessions, Taurus. And then this is also a versus Scorpio, where you get shared wealth, inheritance, shared assets, shared debts, and you merge your money. Also, I want you to think of Taurus as the natural world, the earth, and all the beauty in it. I'm looking out my window right now. God, it's so freaking gorgeous here. Like Washington is just the Emerald City. It's just the Emerald State. It's so beautiful. And then Scorpio is the supernatural. It's all the magic that you can't see. So it's the magic inside the leaf of the tree that has 6 different colors on it. And there's magic in it. And then Taurus is the actual different colors and the shape of the leaf. So Scorpio is the intuition, Taurus is the concrete. So where is your intuitive in conflict with the concrete, pragmatic world? Maybe you want to be an astrologer, but you don't know how to make cold, hard cash from doing intuitive work, right? Something like that. So I want you to think of personal wealth versus investment wealth, or personal wealth versus shared wealth. But both are pretty set in their ways. So this is where you are stubborn and rigid. But and I will tell you that this is where you will not trust, and this is where you're very territorial, and this is probably where your life wants stability and you struggle creating some stability. There's deep transformation on this axis wherever you've got this in your chart, and there's a lot of friggin' power. Wherever you have Taurus and Scorpio, there's a lot of power. But remember, Taurus is ruled by Venus and Scorpio is ruled by Mars. So here we are again, and Pluto too. And so your Venus-Mars issues have got to transform and they have to integrate. So I want to know if you have this. This is about self-esteem. This is about power, personal power. This is about the ability to grow something. And this is about intimacy and sexual intimacy. So you're going to have people that might want to dominate you with power, with money, and also with taking away your self-esteem, because this is your resources. So has someone threatened your resources, that has threatened your self-confidence? Okay, let's move on. I only have a few more minutes to do this video. So, and I have a surprise for you right down here. Oh my God, I can't wait to show you my little guy. He's asleep right now, so I'm gonna let him keep sleeping, but I am gonna show you how cute he is. Oh, he just woke up, we'll see. He wants to be in the video, I'm sure. Let's talk about Gemini and Sagittarius. So they are mutable, they're yang, they are fire and air. You guys all know that. I think this is one of the easier polarities, and I really think they need each other. And so your problems and your challenges, if you have Gemini and Sagittarius as planets in your chart, is about seeing the little tiny puzzle pieces versus seeing the whole puzzle in its entirety. So seeing all the little details and the data around that, and then having the vision for the big picture. This is also about short journeys versus long journeys. Like travel is a big deal for you. And this is about logic versus intuition. So I want you to think of this duality as very concerned with learning, education, communication. This is usually the communication guru. So are you denying the Sagittarius part or the Gemini part? So Geminis want to gather information and data and research and then disseminate the information. This will also, you're going to have challenges around talking and listening. So who's not listening to you? Who's over talking you? Who interrupts you? Who is not, right? There's going to be issues also with anxiety and restlessness and getting your facts straight and the truth. This is like the truth seeker access. So the challenges are going to come in around the theme of truth. So maybe you attract liars. Maybe you are the liar. Maybe you're a white liar. Maybe you have to live a lie. Did you feel the pain in that? Are you living a lie? Are you living a lie? Yeah. If you've got a Pluto-Mars aspect here, or Pluto-Saturn, Gemini represents youthfulness, where Sagittarius represents the wise sage. And both are important. You have to integrate the nimble, agile, sprightly, childlike you know, in Peter Pan, if you will, and still lead with the depth of wisdom that you've accrued your whole life long. So how are you the wise sage and the darling, youthful, agile, nimble fairy elf, right? The child on the trampoline jumping for joy. Like, don't lose your youthfulness. You have to integrate that. So are you repressing that? Is the Gemini part being denied? So you're just all serious Sagittarius. I am the professor, the wise one, and you have no fun in your life. How can you integrate the tiny nuts and bolts to benefit the whole vision? These two need each other, like they all do, but Gemini is also very witty, while Sagittarius is sort of the physical comedian. So, I mean, it's like Lucille Ball and Bob Newhart, right? Which I think could be Carol Burnett, truthfully, or it could be Robin Williams, Gemini, Sagittarius. Gemini is involved like an octopus in everything, but it has a very narrow focus. And Sagittarius just sees that big, big vision. And so having both could really, 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 really benefit you. Sagittarius likes to study philosophy. Gemini likes to understand the pragmatics of philosophy. And Sagittarius likes to imagine, and Gemini can quickly move on to new subjects after it figures out the nuts and bolts of this subject. And Sagittarius can get into a passionate fever about the things that it believes in, and it can rabidly and righteously pursue its truths. And Gemini is very modern, and it gets Sagittarius unstuck because Sagittarius can pledge its allegiance to an old belief system, even if it's expired, where Gemini keeps you modern, right? Keeps your vision modern. It's so stinking cool. So they really need each other. And if you integrate both parts of yourself, you can become a brilliant genius communicator, educator, listener, talker. And if you feel like you've got this and you're really evolved, I want to ask you one question. Are you a good listener? Because this access doesn't listen very well. It talks brilliantly and it doesn't listen very well. And at some point in their life, they stop learning. I pray I will never be like this. I don't have this opposition. Thank God. I don't have any planets in Gemini, but I know a lot of very bright people stop learning. Isn't that crazy? So don't stop learning. So Gemini also constantly researches, and that's how they sabotage themselves. And if you have a lot of Gemini in your chart, please go watch my Gemini rising video, my Gemini moon video. I mean, I'll make you cry. I'll make Geminis that never cry cry in those videos because I got so honest. But you get so addicted to the knowledge that you don't do anything really significant with it. And Sagittarius will force you to do something significant with it. And Geminis can help Sagittarius reach their big giant goals by giving them tiny chunks to do on a daily basis. Gemini will teach the Sagittarius how to eat an elephant. I know that sounds gross, but like how to implement their giant goal. And this is a really powerful combination because this combination, when you integrate both sides, is going to force you to get to the truth. So tell me if you've been dealing with a false life, false people, liars, cheaters, people that plagiarize you, copy you, copyright you. And this is a skill set that the one of the biggest takeaways with this is traveling and listening to other people that are different than you. So let's keep going. Okay, let's talk about Cancer and Capricorn because this one's really interesting. So now we're talking about family versus career. We're talking about our private persona, or not our persona, our private self versus our public persona, and who we want to be in the world versus who our personal relationship with ourself and with our family. So this can also be your internal life and your external life. And this is the feeling of the desire to nurture versus produce. And this is also the mother, Cancer, and the father or the authority of you, right? The boss of you in Capricorn. But they're both very focused on security, family and societal security. And there is sort of a respect for what society wants from me, what my family wants from me. And there's an appreciation for what you've built, where you've come from, your heritage and your roots in both of them. But the Capricorn is very focused on productivity and the laws, the rules, and the regulations, the ethics. And you may actually struggle with a very different value system inside of you, like what you want. Like, do I want to be a career woman or do I want to be at home with a baby? Oh, I want both. Yeah, and how do I do both? And how do I do both if I'm not even in a relationship? And how do I do both if I don't even have a partner, right? So there could be conflict around, I want to be a productive individual that builds and grows a legacy and produces stability and security and buys a home, but at the same time, I don't have enough self-esteem to really go out there and do my calling, so I live at home with my mom and I take care of my mom, right? Or some version of this. So staying at home, feeling trapped at home, but wanting to be out there in the world. And you may even have conflict within your own family dynamic, your mother and your father. And you might even have conflict with the parenting styles that were done unto you or the parenting styles that you and your partner have with your own children. And you may wish to create this big, giant, meaningful legacy, but also your priority is your family, or you might have a kid that is dependent on you. I have one client who, has a lot of children, and her children have very special needs, some of her children. And so she really can't go pursue the kind of career legacy that she wants to because she has to be there for her children. So how do you be productive in the world, creating and carving out that big place and space in your life, and also be the source of nurturance in your family without sacrificing your own soul, your own mission, your own goals, and the needs inside of your home? Do they have the planet that is most challenging, where you want a family and you can't have one and you just have to work? Or is the Capricorn part of you, the work, the dominant and stealing the family away from you? I think of people, well, like think of Elvis Presley. He was a Capricorn, and he loved it, but his whole life was his music and everything. He couldn't tend to his private personal needs, and he had to sacrifice that. Ultimately, it took his life. But You might find also that there's a partner or an industry or the logistics or the theme of your life keeps you small in your Cancer energy, in your Cancer world, and doesn't allow you out into the world too. So it's important to find your power, keep your power while tending to your deep internal needs as well. And that is going to be challenged. So if this is you, I want to know, how did this show up for you? What the heck is happening? I want to know. Okay, I want to tell you guys that I really hope that you guys get my report called The Soul's Design. It is really, really good. It talks about the different houses and it talks about the rulers of your different houses. And it's not going to go into the oppositions as much. It's not going to do that quite as much, but it is just so deep. It's so real. I also want to tell you, get your child's report. It is so good. It doesn't matter if you're 56 years old. It is one of my very favorite reports. It is so, so good. And my reports, I didn't write them, but I chose them, and they are the best out there on the market. They are so good. So I wanted to plug those two. If you've already started with the starter package, if you haven't even gotten the starter package yet, you got to go and get that first and then move on to those other two. But if you already have those two, get those. You will love them. I have so many things I want to teach you. So for my members only, I am going to teach you a new technique called the Fideria. It is amazing. It is so, so good. And I need to get back to my transits videos. So I haven't forgotten. It's just that the bottom of my soul just like fell out with the death of my dog Teddy. And I just haven't been the same since. So for about 2 months, I've really been struggling. And that's why I can't wait to introduce you to Bo. He's so cute. Wait till you see him at the end of this video. So let's explore the fixed yang fire, polarity, yang air, fire and air, and that's Leo Aquarius. So that was also Gemini and Sag, and then we also have Leo and Aquarius. So this is going to have us working around themes and having crisis around our individuality for my self expression and then for the group or for who I am in the group. And so this is about Leo's personal stamp on itself versus Aquarius's public preoccupation, if you will. And this is creativity versus innovation. And I don't know any other astrologer that talks about this axis as Leo is creative and Aquarius is innovative. And that's where we get the iPhone, right? Creativity with innovation. So this is a powerhouse axis. So this is about self versus group. Like, how does the iPhone benefit the whole of society? So my creativity, I put it out there in the world and I improve humanity. And that's what this axis can do when you blend the two. But you can get stuck in the Leo part where I don't want to necessarily put my whole self out there. And then Aquarius doesn't have the ego strength, if you will, and it wants its freedom so badly that it doesn't always do Leo's job. So let's talk about it a little bit more deeply. So think of Aquarius as wanting a democracy and think of Leo as wanting a monarchy. Yeah. And they're really at odds, and they both thrive on being unique and different and self-expressed, but one, as I said, goes about it creatively, and the other goes about it inventively. So Aquariuses reinvent themselves, if you will. This is usually very, very genius, smart, creative people. Leos want ownership, and Aquariuses say they would rather be free to come and go, and so they like to kind of rent. They don't want to be owned, and they don't want to own anybody. Leos want to be on top, and they'll do what it takes to earn a top dog position, where Aquarius is just want to create an egalitarian, unified system, an egalitarian, equal society for all. So both of these signs are very strong, and they usually think highly of themselves, if you will. They usually have unique self-expressions. Think of Aquarius as being in the ensemble of a chorus, and think of Leo as wanting the soloist part, right? So the one thing that's interesting is Aquarius can reinvent themselves, so they can shatter old concepts of themselves and reinvent, where Leo kind of holds on to their identity. Like, you'll notice a Leo really never changes their hairstyle their whole entire life, where Aquarius, every time they show up, you don't recognize them because they change their hair. You're like, wait, you had purple hair last week and now you have a blonde bob, and I don't get it. So these, you can imagine these two together. If you can blend them, you get a big heart and you get a big mind. You get this big giant personal energy, with the Leo ruled by the sun, and then Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, which represents the higher mind, and it's universal thinking, and it's very intuitive in its nature, and it has a psychic sense. And so you might feel trapped in a world where you cannot escape needing the approval of others, or you set up a life where you get the approval of others, but now you're trapped in it and now you want to break free from it. And you might feel like you're having to sell your soul or sell out your creative, unique self-expression to just go along with what the group wants from you, what your tribe. You might feel like you can never leave your friggin' tribe. Like, they trap you. They trap you and they make you love them, and you don't even want to. You want to friggin' leave. So you've got gilded golden handcuffs because they give you clout, status, money, security, safety, whatever, but you have to sell out your own self-expression. It is really sad when this goes wrong. So are you struggling with this? And you might need to rebel to be yourself. You might be gay in a conservative family and you have to sell out because you can't reveal the uniqueness of yourself. But when, what I'll tell you is, you might have a giant will, and you might feel like your very own ego sort of has to die or is being demolished by expectations of others. And it can be absolutely flattening and devastating. But when you can truly take in the group's wisdom, if you will, but not at the cost of your own truth and your own self, not by diminishing yourself, but you assess what they're saying, see if it feels right or wrong, and if it aligns with you. And if you can truly stand in your own self, the power is so much bigger than yourself. And you can find, if you can find the bigger truths than just what your ego benefits from, and you can stand in the reinvention of yourself so it universally benefits the whole entire group or globe, well, then you've arrived. I mean, this can be so powerful. You can literally be a person who changed the world. You can be the guy who made this, Steve Jobs. Look at this guy. He's a full moon baby. He's in Aries with a Libra moon. He's my new baby. Isn't he cute? He's so sweet. Let's talk about Virgo and Pisces. So we know that they are mutable, water and earth, and 6th and 12th house. And this is where we're going to be highly focused on critical thinking versus universal divine thinking versus just cosmic downloads. And we're talking about order versus chaos, like the chaos of the Big Bang, the big, in the chaos just inside the universe, right? And we're talking about discrimination versus acceptance. Now, that I know sounds bad, like to discriminate, right? Nobody wants to be discriminatory. But if you don't know the difference between good or bad, you don't know how to say no. Like, no, thank you. To just accept everything and anything is not healthy. So you need to know what's good for you by having a discriminatory palette, right? So sometimes it's not always good to stand in the acceptance of all things. That's when we get into trouble. If you can't discern between good and evil, then, you know, how can you be able to even function in life? So, this is also about perfection versus self undoing. And I wouldn't say Pisces is about imperfection, but Pisces accepts imperfection and Virgo doesn't. Virgo demands perfection. So Virgo is here to try to master, where Pisces is here to sort of learn to let go and surrender. So if you're master and surrender are kind of opposites, right? He's so cute. He was a good boy. This is his second night with us. I've only had him for 24 hours. He's so cute. He's 8 weeks old. So Virgo's trying to master here and now, and Pisces is trying to evolve and master lifetimes. So we're talking again, Jupiter, big, big picture. So Pisces is trying to experience its connection to all living things, and Virgo wants to master the details that are right in front of itself to become useful to society. And Pisces wants to understand cosmic or universal oneness. So we could also say that Virgo is about consciousness and Pisces is about unconsciousness or subconsciousness, the dreamland. And I will also say that the opposition of this axis is really, really highly focused on service to other people. And they are also both quite humble servants of the zodiac. And they both experience altruism, love, compassion. But Virgo is motivated to be useful in a system that is productive, that is helpful. And Pisces is, and they're very, very, very pragmatic, I should say. And Pisces wants to be of service through devotion and maybe even sacrifice. Pisces gravitates towards messy, and Virgo gravitates towards fanatically clean. Now, that's not always true, and go watch my Virgo videos because I have a lot of Virgo myths that I bust. But Virgo wants pragmatic order in life, and they are preoccupied with being right, where Pisces is preoccupied with everything is relative. Like, you know, yeah, you're right if, you know, but working together, and if you have this access, you probably feel a little cuckoo, like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, like whoa. And this is a hard access to have because one is just so vast and so big, and then one is just like microcosm. And so if you can combine this, you can actually develop an earthbound, pragmatic, practical, useful approach to spiritual service in the world where and so if the Pisces planet is malefic and domineering and the problem, well, then you can get lost in your delusions and never create a routine. And if Virgo is, then you can just be this cynical, skeptical critic that can never find spiritual existence and will never believe in a power higher than your own self and what you can control. So if you can integrate these two, you can build a system that will grow a structure out of you can actually make your dreams come true. You can actually put the dream of Pisces into concrete, useful, high functioning reality of Virgo. Whoa, who doesn't want that? And you'll find that you might come into situations that try to enslave you. Both of these struggle with enslavement, and both of these struggle, they have, well, Pisces dissolves the ego, and Virgo doesn't have a strong ego when it first comes into this world, and it's here to develop one. But you might run into people, situations that keep you down, try to take your power away from you. And also you might find that your life just is easier to deal with if you just escape it. So escapism is a huge theme here. If you escape it into just being, well, the Virgo side, fanatically healthy and a bodybuilder and in the gym and a gym rat, right? And counting calories and anorexic and so skinny and I never eat. Or Pisces, illusions, delusions, daydream your life away, or drugs and alcohol. Or you might have people in your life who do that and they control you, or they control your family. You know, they might have a mental illness, a health illness that you're enslaved to, that you might not be able to escape from. And I can tell you, though, that when this goes well, this can be nirvana. I mean, this can be the highest consciousness possible to mankind. This can be literally the highest form of love when you integrate both sides of this. Um, he's so cute. And this can be like divinely powerful. This can be literally the earth angel. He's so tired. And we're going to take him to the outside patio tonight. And he's going to get to go eat dinner with all new people. So, Bo, this is Bo, baby Bo, and me signing off. I hope you like this video. Let me know if you want more. I hope you are wonderful. And I can't wait for our next video. I'm sorry if there's no edits on this. Thank you for your patience, and take good care.